coming to you live from deep in the mountains of the Missouri Ozarks on Friday, the first day of November, year of our Lord 2019. Welcome to the John Moore Show. We begin our shows with something that most Democrats, unfortunately, think is unnecessary anymore in the public schools. That would be the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Proper tip of the day, I want to encourage all of you to stock up on ammunition, magazines, body armor, gas masks. The tempo of the discourse is getting very heated in this country. I don't know what's coming, but I do know that if you have enough ammunition, magazines, gas masks, and body armor, you'll be ready for whatever might be coming in terms of national civil disorder. That would be a good thing. We have patient waiting in the green room, my friend Tom Berryhill. Tom is a gentleman who began a quest more than half a century ago to become quite proficient and knowledgeable in anything and everything to do with emergency radio communications, ham radio, electronics in general. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, John, on this very cool morning here in the Ozarks.
Well, sir, we've got our first hard freeze, 20 degrees, a hard freeze, about 4 weeks too early. In fact, I'll be checking with the facilities manager for the American Legion post around the commander to check with him and see if everything's okay. This is way too early, but this is part of something, and we need to talk about here some this morning, Tom, of what's coming in terms of violent climate change. And a topic I've been talking about for many years. It became real apparent June of 2010 what was coming at us in terms of violent climate change. And the film, the Hollywood film, The Day After Tomorrow, starring Dennis Quaid. Now, what I've been telling people, Tom, since 2010 is we're living that movie in slow motion. What happens in the film takes place over a matter of just a very few months, about 3 to 6 months, where we go from normal weather to an ice age. Well, the truth is the ice age is coming, but not in 3 to 6 months, obviously. So here's the deal, ladies and gentlemen. June 12th, 2010, the Gulf Stream stopped. And Dennis Quaid plays the part of a paleoclimatologist, a scientist who studies ancient weather. And here's the deal. You have to have global warming or global heating prior to having global cooling or a mini ice age. One has to happen before the other. This may sound counterintuitive, but it is a scientific fact. And the movie goes into that. If you know a little bit about what I'm talking about, you can identify what's going on in the film in a Hollywood version. So, Tom, what happened June 12, 2010? The Gulf Stream stopped. That was a consequence of melting freshwater ice in two places, Greenland and the Antarctic. The melting ice at the North Pole doesn't matter because it's floating salt water. It doesn't matter. But the melting freshwater ice in the Greenland and the Antarctic put all that fresh water into the oceans, reducing the salinity of these oceans. Now, the Gulf Stream used to function, past tense, because of the salinity of the ocean, and that salinity allowed the warm water from the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean to go all the way across the North Atlantic, warming up England, Ireland, Scotland, splitting there, going south towards the coast of France, going north towards Scandinavia. That all ended June 12, 2010. What also ended, Tom, was the regulation of the jet stream. Now, Tom, you're in central Missouri, and about 5 miles above your head, Tom, as you're sitting there on this radio show this morning, and all you listeners, about 5 miles above your head is something called the jet stream. It doesn't matter if you're in South America, in Ecuador, or in North America. There's at least 3 jet streams that I'm aware of. Some people say there's 4. The northern hemisphere, equatorial, and southern hemisphere. These jet streams have a dramatic impact on weather in all the areas that they are, which is worldwide, of course. And Tom, the Gulf Stream used to, past tense, regulate the jet stream, which is no longer regulated. It just does wild gyrations. The scientists have no model, no way of determining what's going on or why for these jet streams, because they've lost their dependability. They've lost their regulatory force, which was the Gulf Stream. So here we are, Tom, the first day of November, with it being 20 degrees when it should be, about 15 to 20 degrees warmer than that right now, as it has been for our entire lives and for many centuries before us. Tom, we're at the beginning of what may be very well a mini ice age that could last for years. And Tom, you're old enough to remember when in our hometown, St. Louis, in the 1970s, the mayor of St. Louis came on the radio asking people to loan the St. Louis Police Department 4-wheel drive Jeeps so the police could patrol. There were snowmobile dealerships all around St. Louis in the early to mid 70s. We had so many harsh winters with such long-lasting, dramatic snows that snowmobile dealerships were thriving, and the police department couldn't get around unless they borrowed Jeeps from private citizens. That's what it was like 40, 45 years ago, wasn't it, sir?
Yes, it was. I don't remember that so much in the 70s, John, but I do remember that winter of 82 when we had that huge snowstorm. I couldn't get to my plant out in Fenton, Missouri. I couldn't get anywhere near it. Things were shut down for about a week. I remember people pulling. Yeah, they pulled sleds down the main roads to go grocery shopping.
I was dating my wife, Dr. Moore, at the time. She was actually a student at Logan to become a doctor at the time, and my home, my apartment, was about halfway between where she worked as a waitress at a kind of an upscale restaurant and her home, her apartment in Clayton, Missouri. So I go to bed. It was cool, and the ground was bare and dry when I went to bed that night. About 2 a.m., I hear a knock, knock, knock on my door, and I go to the door, and there was Mary Ann standing there in a blizzard. It was the snow was already about a foot deep, and I let her in, and it kept snowing all night. My little Saab sports car in the driveway, I could not see it. The top of the car was even with the snow. Where it had drifted a little bit, the top of the car was about 3.5 feet above the ground. So Mary Ann came in to stay with me because of this blizzard, and she and I put on our winter gear and hiked to the supermarket the next morning. Nothing was moving. There was no motor vehicles moving at all on the roads. None, zippo, none, nada. It was phenomenal, and you're right. St. Louis, Missouri was basically shut down completely for 3 days and for most of a week with that record snowfall. Thankfully, the power grid held up because we would have been in really bad trouble real quick. I had some emergency gear. I had a kerosene heater that I could have stayed warm with, but thank goodness the power grid held up. So I'm talking about this, ladies and gentlemen, because this is what's coming. We've been hearing for years and years and years about global warming. Back in the 70s, they were predicting an ice age coming. Obviously, that didn't happen. I'm not predicting anything's coming. I am saying that the stage is set for that to come. When the Gulf Stream stopped June 12, 2010, And I documented that. We interviewed Dr. Luigi Zangari at the time, myself and Dr. Deagle. Oh, by the way, Tom, I'll be on with Dr. Deagle next Tuesday on his show. I got a little TV studio set up here in my office because he does TV now. And that's at 3 p.m. Central Time this coming Tuesday with Dr. Bill Deagle. And I reached out to some other people in the last couple of days. Doug Hagman, I'll be on with Doug soon. And my show is going to be rebroadcast on a new Christian network starting next week or so. I'll be reaching out to Dave Hodges as well to be with Dave on his show. Things are moving along quickly, aren't they, sir?
Yeah, they really are. I didn't know Bill Deagle was going to have a video type of broadcast. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, well,
That's great.
He's quite the technoid, and he's up to snuff on all this latest technical gadgets, which I'm not. In fact, Tom, just recently, early this week, I purchased a half-century-old British sports car. Luckily, it'll pass inspection because the Missouri state inspection does not require the driver's door to stay closed when you make a turn. So, I'll be posting I'll be posting photographs and updates as I restore this half-century-old British sports car, which does run, but the driver's door doesn't stay latched. And that will be one of the first things I'll be working on, obviously. It'll be a fun project, and I'm very well qualified to work on a half-century-old automobile because it's so simplistic that my skill set is equal to it. No computers. It's EMP-proof, Tom. Absolutely EMP-proof. And,
that is a good car to have.
Yeah. And it'll be a fun project, and I'm looking forward to it. And I need something to keep me busy. I can't just sit around and read books in my spare time. I need something to do with my hands. But during that blizzard, I don't know what role the ham radio people played in that blizzard, but you were there at the time, and what was going on with ham radio during that blizzard, sir, if you recall?
Well, those guys were on mainly during that time. I listened to the local 2-meter repeaters. I had a UHF repeater on the air at the time. It's all the equipment seemed to work better with all that snow on the ground. The coverage was even better. But that was so long ago, John, I don't remember all the details. I do remember those television spots, though, where they were asking for four-wheel drive vehicles. And, four-wheel drive wasn't as popular in those days as it is now. But they were really desperate. And the hospitals needed people to get patients in and out, so they were also in need of four-wheel drive. So I always keep a four-wheel drive pickup truck handy, and that's what I use when I hardly ever drive that thing, but when there's snow on the ground, that's what I use, and I put a lot of weight in the bed, and I've never had any trouble getting around anywhere in the deepest of snow.
Well, that's good. That's good. And the winter is here, and no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We're past fall. As far as the calendar is concerned, we're still in fall up until, I believe, December 21st, the shortest day of the year. But as far as the temperature is concerned, it is no doubt whatsoever winter. Now, they've had snows in some parts of the country about a month, 2 months early, haven't they, sir?
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, this weather is just, it's been different. It's really been different, and I think we're in for a serious winter. What do you think?
It's certainly, as far as temperature, no doubt whatsoever for our area of central Missouri. As far as precipitation and snow, the last 5 winters, I think the total snow accumulation between all 5 winters was maybe 1 inch or inch and a half of snow. Where we were going for a third of an inch, a half an inch per season, per winter. But with the early onset of extreme cold, and 20 degrees the 1st of November in our part of the country is an extreme temperature. If you're up in Minnesota, you would laugh at what we call winter down here. And you're welcome to your winters up there, all you folks in Minnesota at International Falls, the coldest place in in the United States, including Alaska, most of the time. But for us, 20 degrees on the 1st of November is very serious cold weather. And not that we can't deal with it. We're prepared to deal with it and keep warm. And all our infrastructure is built to deal with this kind of weather, isn't it, sir?
Anyway, we do have to prepare as far as ham radio goes, communications. You really have to check your antenna connections, make sure everything's sealed up. Any water gets in there and then freezes, it's going to expand and make connections come apart and things like that. So a really good idea to check things now while you still have the chance to make sure all that's good. And that includes the antennas on any vehicles.
Absolutely. What's the name of that black sticky stuff that we put on the antenna connections outside? Do you know offhand?
I don't remember, but I know exactly what you're talking about. And they make they make a similar product to use for electrical connections, and you can purchase that at almost any of the big hardware stores.
The man who invented the black sticky stuff for these connectors was a regular guest on my show. I doubt he's still alive. He was a B-17 pilot in World War II, stranded in Russia during World War II. And the Russian government wouldn't help him. The United States government wouldn't help him. It was wintertime. They weren't provided adequate shelter or clothing, him and his crew. He told his men, he says, "I'm walking out of here. Anybody wants to come with me, let's go." One guy went with him. Everybody else stayed behind, never heard from again. The one guy who came with him did not make it. He was the only survivor of his entire B-17 crew. And he still couldn't talk about it, even as recently as a few years ago. Yeah. But he invented the black sticky stuff that we all use in our connectors. We have a break. Call number is 800-313-9443.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
We're back. Jared Moore here on Friday. It is Friday, the first day of November. The year will be over in about 8 weeks. How about that? We're going on a cruise. We're talking about winter. I really don't care for cold weather. I know how to deal with it very effectively. But I'd rather be in a warm climate. And we're going to be in the Caribbean. I'll be there. Leon Green will be there. Everybody else who wants to go has an opportunity to go with us. Just go to my website and check out the Caribbean cruise, the second week of February. If you don't have internet access, call our cruise director, Betsy Murphy. She'll be glad to mail you a full-color brochure, and it'll be fun. Royal Caribbean Cruise Line is the largest cruise ship they make. There's 20 restaurants on this ship. A week away from the cold weather. It sounds like a good deal to me. Betsy Murphy's telephone number, here it is, twice, slowly, 636 636-530-9502. I say again, 636-530-9502. This is Emergency Communications Friday morning. We talked to Tom Berryhill about emergency communications and encourage people to get their ham radio license, get the equipment that's compatible with their level of expertise. Join the ARRL, that's Alpha Romeo Romeo Lima.org. Join your local ham radio club so you can get up to speed as quickly as possible. Right, Tom? Hello, Tom.
American Radio. Yeah, I'm here.
Go ahead.
Am I coming through? Yeah, the American Radio Relay League is where you start. That's the place to find the publications and other information that will lead you to the local ham radio club, where the ladies and gentlemen there can also help you to learn what you're going to need to pass that test. And all those publications from the American Radio Relay League will help you. They have from the very basics up to very advanced information on technical subjects. So there's something for everybody, but it's really not difficult at all to get started. And I really believe anybody that would spend even 2 weeks, but if they spent 3 or 4 weeks and really went over all the test questions and the information, anybody could pass that test. It's really not that difficult.
No, it's not. We routinely, and I need to keep we have, this is radio, we always have new listeners, 8 to 9-year-old boys and girls routinely study for and get their ham radio license. So don't be intimidated. Just because you're not a electronics expert, you don't need to be an electronics expert. Any person of normal intelligence, with normal abilities, with no special talent in electronics at all, can study for and pass their ham radio test, can't they, Tom?
Yes, they can, and it can really launch a career for a young person if they get started early. It's a great way to, if you're studying electronics, a great way to increase your knowledge and put your designs to use. If you want to design equipment and try it out on the air, ham radio is the way to do it. All the way from computer circuits that interface your computer equipment to the radio equipment or RF type equipment. If you want to work with amplifiers, oscillators, things like that, that's really where the ham radio shines, because it allows people to work with these designs, learn how to calibrate them, and it could be the start of a very lucrative career for a young person if they decide to get into it.
Oh, great for homeschoolers, too. Homeschoolers like to get their youngsters a broad-based education where they learn lots of practical things, useful things. And as I mentioned previously, Tom, in other shows, most childhood activities, children are pretending to do what adults do with toys. Toys that simulate and emulate what adults do, adult activities. Well, this is entirely different, because the children are not pretending to do what adults are doing. They actually do what adults do when it comes to ham radio. So they're not pretending, and it's a good experience for them, isn't it?
It really is. And like you just said, the same equipment that the adults would be using, these young people would be using. It's not too uncommon to hear a young teenager on the radio with some very powerful signals talking worldwide. I've heard it myself, and I've done it myself, but it's been a long time ago. But you do hear it quite often, John, and these young people, I think that's the best part of this hobby, is getting them started, because it really sparks an interest, and they get going at a young age, and they soak it up like a sponge, and they're really capable of doing some great things in their lives. So I just think it's a great way for a homeschooler, especially if they're looking for some sort of electronics course or something for the kids. This is a way to get it going. Absolutely
it is. We got a bottom of the hour break coming up here. If you got a question or comment about emergency communications, just give us a call at 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
All right, we are back. Somewhere back. Here are more here on Friday. It is Friday, the very first day of November. My website is thelibertyman.com. I got an email from a listener this morning. John, where can I see the map from The Godfather, the map of North America with new coastlines, and all the other maps? We scroll down the left side of my homepage at thelibertyman.com. It says, New Coastlines in the Media. There's more than 24 movies and TV shows showing continents with different coastlines, new coastlines, going back to the 1950s. It's quite a project. It's a lot of fun, and I have to give credit where credit is due. That's the listeners. I don't have the time to watch all the movies and TV shows, probably 500,000 or more produced in the last 60 years. But when you do see a movie or a TV show that's showing a continent with a new coastline, different coastline, get that screen capture to me. That's what you need to do, number one. And then you get to pick out any of my 6 DVDs as a thank you. It's a fun project. Let's keep it moving forward. Regardless of what the future brings for us, whether it's good normal times or hard times, you're going to need energy to do the things you want to do. So in good times, you might want to go golfing or fishing or play tennis. You need energy for that. In hard times, you'll be doing manual labor, maybe cutting firewood, working in the garden, working on a tractor. And you need energy for that also. That's where the energy cleaner comes in, to help you have the energy you need to do the things that you want and need to do. If you have arthritis pain, what are you waiting for? It's not going to fix itself. Get yourself an energy cleaner. Joint pain, back pain, same thing. Get yourself an energy cleaner. The mattress pads that go with it, it's a great combination. That's what most people are doing these days. We have twin size, full size, queen, king, California king. Working with some people, they got one of these king size beds that's split in the middle from about the waist up, the top half of the bed, and we're going to ship them 2 twin size mattress pads that will be connected to the energy cleaner, so these people can use the energy cleaner and the twin size mattress pads on this special bed that goes up and down. It was split in the middle, the top half. All the details at my website at thelibertyman.com. You can use PayPal, MasterCard, Visa to place your order. You can call my toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Here it is, twice, slowly, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. This is Communications Friday morning. We talk about emergency survival communications. And that's what it's all about, is protecting lives and property, isn't it, Tom?
Yes, it is, John. We've been talking about the weather, and of course that gets us thinking, like I said earlier, about antenna connections. If you have any type of radio equipment, this is the time to check those electrical connections, whether it be the antenna or the power, anything like that, your backup power systems. If you have that, generators, battery banks, things like this, you really need to check all this and make sure everything's working properly, no bad connections or anything, and especially on antennas, if they're on a tower or on a mast or anything like that, make sure that those antennas exposed to the weather are watertight. So you want to have a very good connection where the transmission line connects to that antenna. Make sure everything's supported properly. You don't want that transmission line dangling in the wind, blowing around and collecting ice and getting too heavy, and it will tear itself loose from the antenna itself. You don't need that trouble.
I use lots of zip ties, cable ties to secure the coax to the antenna. Make sure I got the black sticky stuff nice and secure around the outside connections, and have what's called a drip loop before the coax comes into the structure. The drip loop is a extra little length where the coax goes down before it goes up into the entrance into the structure. So any melting water, rain, so forth, it drips down rather than follows the coax into the structure itself. Right, Tom?
Yes, that's correct. That's the proper way to do it, and that's very important. The last thing you need is that water traveling in with the cable, and it'll run right down that cable and right into the building, and you don't want that. That's a terrible problem to deal with. But drip loop solves that, and you also want to make sure lightning connections, we can have lightning in the winter, make sure any type of grounds are properly installed and good connections there, make sure the tower mast is grounded, and I think you'll be all set to go.
Absolutely. And if you're sitting there scratching your head, what are these guys talking about? Cable ties, black sticky stuff, drip loops. It may be new language to you and things that you're not used to hearing about. All the mysteries, all the confusion will be resolved once you start going to your local ham club meetings, won't they, Tom?
That's right, and that's where these people have learned by experience, and by making mistakes, they've learned how to get things done and what not to do, and they'll share that information with you and hopefully spare you from some real dead ends that can be quite costly and damage equipment sometimes. So you want to do it right from the start, and there's nothing wrong by learning from your mistakes, but if you don't have to do it, why do it? These people have the experience, and they'll be glad to help.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it doesn't cost anything. Joining a local ham radio club, there may be some nominal membership fee. Sometimes the club has them, sometimes they don't, and you'll end up meeting great people. And something that comes up a lot, Tom, in my conversations, people ask me, John, how do I find people of like mind? Well, this is a great place to find people of like mind. I would say 9 out of 10 ham radio operators have a certain level of interest in preparedness, don't they, sir?
They really do. You'll find a lot of interest in preparedness at these ham clubs. If you go to a ham fest where they're buying and selling equipment, that's another good thing to do, and there's some of those that are indoors during the winter months all across the country. You can find information there and talk to people like-minded that will help you in the preparedness issue, and that subject, it comes up all the time. Whether it's a radio club or a ham fest, they're quite aware of what's going on, most of them.
That's right. They are. And we can encourage people, we can inform them, we can nudge them. It's their decision to pick up the challenge or not. I respect that. I don't have an emotional attachment to the outcome of informing these people. That's their choice, and I respect their choice to get involved in ham radio or not. And the consequences of not getting involved may lead to some very serious end, not too pleasant end, couldn't it, Tom?
Well, that's very true, and especially we're talking about wintertime weather. It's a dangerous time to be caught out there. If you have problems, you get stranded, you slide off the road. Out here in these rural areas, John, if you don't have a cell phone, you're in trouble. But then many times there's no coverage. There's quite a few gaps in the coverage still in these rural areas. You get outside of some of the small towns, and the phones don't work, but the ham radio equipment would.
There's in my neighborhood, cell phones don't work, with certain exceptions. I know of 2 spots. One, a church parking lot, about a mile. It would be north of me, and then the parking lot for the fire department about a half a mile south of me. There's cell phone coverage. Now here at my home, I've got cell phone coverage because I have a Wilson amplifier And my cell phone works where nobody else's cell phone works because I've installed a Wilson amplifier point at the nearest cell phone tower. And a quick heads up, Wilson Amplifiers makes a mobile version that will work in cars and trucks, which will allow you to talk on a cell phone in places where nobody else can talk on a cell phone, right, Tom?
That's correct. It's basically a bidirectional amplifier. It boosts your signal going back to the cell tower, and it boosts the tower signal coming back to you. So it works both ways, and it's a handy thing to have. I probably need one here, but I just get by the best I can. And I'll tell you what, John, you get in some bad weather and that phone doesn't work, you're in some serious trouble. You're traveling at night, and you're low on fuel, and that's the other thing. Keep your gas tank topped off. But if you're
Two reasons. It provides extra weight to the back of the vehicle where your driving wheels are for most cars, except I guess that's a lot of newer cars. You have front wheel drive, but more weight on the back wheels is a good thing. And of course, being low on fuel could have very serious consequences if you do get stranded.
Yes, that's true. I on my 4-wheel drive pickup, I actually put 2 55-gallon drums full of water in the back. I put those drums in the truck and lay them down on their side, and I have a frame that I put in there, holds them in place right over the rear axle, and I just fill those things with water. I've only had to do that a few times over the years, but that really helped getting through when even a lot of these 4-wheel drive vehicles were in a ditch and they slid off the road. That thing was stable enough and weight enough to keep it on the road. So
that's
you have to do a lot of different things.
Yeah. That's you're looking at what at least 500 pounds.
About almost 8.5 pounds over 8 pounds per gallon.
So you're looking at about a half a ton of water there, basically, aren't you? Close to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep. Well, that's good. That's good. And you don't have to lift them out of there. All you need to do is drain the water, and then you got an empty drum to take out.
Well, sometimes it got cold enough for it to freeze, and I just left them in there
until springtime.
And, I did as a matter of fact. But you could also. I just went on a slight incline one time and just pulled the frame that I built out of lumber. I just pulled that aside and just rolled them out the back of the truck, and they went rolling down the hill. And when they thawed out, I just emptied them and put them back in storage. But that got the job done. It was just a makeshift thing that worked pretty good.
Well, in the Army we call it field expedient, and I'm well known for doing field expedient things to make things work as necessary. Do workarounds and improvise between. Cable ties, duct tape, and parachute cord. I can fix almost anything, Tom.
That's all you need. Just put some thought to it, and you get the job done.
Absolutely. Well, there's lots of hobbies out there that people can participate in. The expensive ham radio is on the low end of hobbies, isn't it, sir?
It is. It's not expensive to get started. I think if you buy some used equipment, if you start with a technician license, that's the entry point, and you're going to be on VHF and UHF frequencies. I was looking at some of the Ham 1 ads earlier this morning, and I do that most days. I look through there because I'm always looking for certain parts and accessories and things. You can find almost anything you need, but I saw some of these radios that would be perfect for a newcomer to this hobby for $100, including the shipping, John. So you can buy new stuff, too, some of these Chinese radios. I don't trust those things, but you can get those through Amazon, brand new, for $100 shipped. So there's all kinds of ways to do it. But if you want some really nice ICOM, Yaesu, Kenwood, that type of equipment, even a Linco, all of those are proven designs. Those pieces of equipment will get you on the air reliably with very little trouble. And I really think if you just budget I'd say maybe $250 or $300 to get your first setup with all the antenna equipment, the connecting cables, everything you need. That price range would get you started.
That's why I spent that much for one tire for my van. One tire. I spent that much for one tire. And that was 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago. We got a caller on hold here. We got Dave in Texas. Good morning, Dave.
Good morning, guys. Great show as usual. I read a prepper series a while ago. It's a really good one, Going Home. And a good part of it deals with ham radio communications and such. In there was one instance where it was a grid down scenario, the book series, and they were accessing weather satellite information via ham radio and able to download actual pictures of what was currently going on weather-wise, approaching hurricanes, things like that. Do you know much about that as far as accessing weather satellites with your ham gear, and where it would be a good place to start investigating that?
Okay, I am not that familiar with those satellites. I know some of the weather satellites actually operate at some relatively low frequencies. Some of them in the 2-meter spectrum are close to it. 136 megahertz, I think, are some of them. But you might want to investigate more and find out the frequency range. And then there's equipment that would let you decode those signals and actually have the printouts. There's probably upgraded equipment that operates at much higher frequencies, but it's true that the ham equipment does cover extended ranges on receive. So while we're limited to transmit in certain frequency spaces, the receivers on much of this equipment is wide range and allows you to tune and receive outside of the ham radio bands and listen to whatever you want, whether it be the police, fire, utilities, all of that. You can hear all of it, and I would assume some of the satellite transmissions as well. Of course, they're not going to decode it, so you're going to need some sort of a system that interfaces to the radio and your computer that would put that information right on your computer screen. And if you could get that set up, Dave, then you have a real-time weather station right there, and you'd see exactly what's going on as it happens.
Yeah, I figured in a grid-down scenario that would be a very effective and something that would be useful to have.
It could really be helpful, and I really like to focus on HF communications as well as the 2 meters in a grid down scenario. That's where you really need the regional and wide range coverage as well.
Right.
Okay, Dave. Well, we appreciate the call, sir.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
We are our last break. We'll be right back.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the very first day of November. Well, Tom, in almost exactly 12 months, we will have an election for President of the United States. What's it got to do with ham radio? Well, here's what it's got to do with it. We're expecting civil disorder whether the president wins or the president loses. Civil disorder almost always means disruptions in normal communications and the need to be able to talk to friends, loved ones, co-workers, people you go to church with, neighbors, and so forth, to accomplish the goal of making sure people are safe and secure. So 12 months will fly by. It'll make your head spin, these 12 months, on one hand. On the other, Tom, wouldn't you agree we have time for people to study for the ham license right now, get their ham radio license, and get their equipment over the next 12 months? That would be a fair statement, wouldn't it, sir?
Oh, easily. I think most people will be able to do it in that time frame, John, and they'd be able to be on the air long before that and build the skills needed to operate that equipment, learning the on-the-air procedures and what frequencies they'd be using, and be all set. It could be very helpful, and who knows what's going to happen at that time. It's hard to say, but yes, there could be some civil disorder. It's going to really be important to have communications as well as HF. If you want to talk worldwide, HF systems are great, and also a shortwave receiver. And the HF ham equipment can be used as a shortwave receiver. If you just want to listen, you can do that, but you can also use it to communicate. So anyway, it's good to have all that type of equipment at hand in case something does go very wrong.
Right. Well, the civil disorder may or may not happen, but what is definitely going to happen will be nature's events. There's no place on this planet safe from what nature can and will do, and ham radio is always handy for that, isn't it?
It really is. It's so important, and the capabilities to get international shortwave broadcasts is so important, because some of the best information will come from outside the country.
Absolutely. Tom, thank you, sir, for being with us. Have a great weekend, and we'll be talking privately soon, I'm sure.
Thank you, John.
Okay, appreciate it, sir. We've got to top there, our break coming up. We hope to have Dr. Lynn Wilbert with us, and we'll be talking about health-related matters. It's not well commonly known, but many of us radio talk show hosts know each other. We're friends. We communicate privately. We've been to each other's homes. I've known Steve Quayle since the late 1990s, for example. Dave Hodges and I talk privately every 3 or 4 weeks as necessary. Doug Hagman, I talked to Doug Hagman yesterday. He's going to have me on his show. Dr. Bill Deagle, I will be with Dr. Deagle this coming Tuesday at 3 p.m. Central Time, doing a TV show. Kevin Gallagher has started a new Christian-based radio network. It's the Truth Be Told Network. Truth Be Told Network. And my show is going to be broadcast on his network. Top of the hour break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. J.R. Moore here, our second hour on Friday, the 1st of November. Your prep tip of the day is be sure you stock up on all your tactical supplies and gear. That would be a really smart thing to do. We have patient waiting in the green room, my friend, Dr. Lynn Wilbert. Dr. Wilbert is a healthcare professional, has been for decades. He's been an instructor for other doctors all over the United States. We're going to be talking about health-related matters. If you need a private consultation with Dr. Wilbert, well, just give him a telephone call, and his telephone is area code 314-495-6480. Good morning, Doctor.
Greetings, J.R. Moore. How are you this morning?
Well, cold. We had our first hard freeze here about 4 weeks early. We shouldn't have 20 degrees for another 4 to 5 weeks at least. But we're dealing with it. How about yourself, sir?
Well, I'm dealing with it as well. I spent 3 winters too long in Minnesota. So in my early chiropractic career in school, and so this is the only thing that I have to put up with is that I can't play golf in 30 degrees. No, I can, but I don't play golf in 30-degree weather because it would be a bit uncomfortable. But other than that, I'm looking forward to spring, which will be here real soon.
Well, you don't have any orange golf balls in your inventory, sir?
No, I give those to my lady clients.
Oh, okay. All right. 'Cause if you're playing in the snow, you need orange golf balls.
Golf is a tough enough game for me not to ever play in the snow.
I don't get it myself. I respect those who want to spend their time chasing that ball around a beautiful course, but same thing with fly fishermen. I don't get that either, but I respect their choice to do that. Well, Doctor, with these, it was 20 degrees here today, and 4 weeks ago I had the air conditioner on, and so we're. I was literally laying in the backyard in the sunshine, sweating 4 weeks ago, and here we are with 20 degrees. So these wild temperature swings do cause issues with people's health, don't they, sir?
Well, yes, it does, John. Again, we live in the environment that we live in, meaning that if you were in Florida, you would have 2 growing seasons, barely any snow, and rarely a freeze. And the same thing with California. But that's starting to change a little bit. The environment is starting to change. Minnesota's had snow for almost a month now. My colleagues are there, and they're telling me it's snowing already. And normally in Minnesota, it would have snowed yesterday, which was Halloween. No, it would have rained yesterday. In the first couple of days in November, it'll snow. And then it'll snow from November to April, May, June. It just depends on that particular winter. My daughter was born in May of 1983, May 29th. And on that day, or that morning when she was born, there were still 10, 12-foot-high piles of snow. They're very adept at moving snow for transportation in as little as 2 days. However, when we go from, like you said, air conditioner on to turning on the heat in the same day or the same week even, your body has to deal with that. And I'll mention his name again, a brilliant physician in the early, I would say, 1900s. Most of his work came out in the 1930s or 40s. His name is Hans Selye, Hans Selye, Hans Selye. And he's touted as the father of stress, meaning he's done so much research on the body's adaptability. He calls it the general adaptive syndrome. See, we don't have to think about how to adapt to any environmental change. We don't think about it. What we think about is what is it that we need to do when there's such a drastic environmental change. And when there's an environment, he mentions all kinds of stresses. He mentions trauma, again, extreme exposure to heat and cold, which is the environmental changes that we're experiencing now. He mentions strong emotions. He mentions nutrition. There's a list of pregnancy on that list, which is a big stress to the system, both man and woman. We just don't have to go through the physical part of it. But the stress, we have an adaptable ability to handle stresses. And the way that we do that is that our system, our nerve system, and again, not our nervous system, but our nerve system initiates a response to the environment. For instance, it's cold now. And so our fluids will tend to slow down just a little bit, but does that mean you need less fluid in this time of year? No. You actually need more because the leaves are changing, and that puts an acid into the environment that we have to breathe. And so now we have this upper respiratory tract awareness, sometimes cleansing which is mucus formation. Sometimes there'd be a fever. Fever is actually good because as long as it doesn't go too high in adults, children can handle 102 fever easy. Adults can't. But fever is an indication that your immune system has gone to work. In elevated temperature, normal temperature, metabolic temperature is 98.6, around there. Well, if your temperature goes up to 100.6, white blood cells work more effectively, more efficiently in elevated temperature. Bacteria and viruses cannot. And so, therefore, fever is good. Most of us don't like the way we feel when we have a fever, so we tend to do something to get rid of the fever. That's not the best thing to do. Now, if it lasts longer than 3 days, then you should certainly take more advanced measures. But white blood cells, eosinophils, basophils, all those fun names, they can mobilize more effectively and fight more effectively in elevated temperature. And so when a person has developed too much acid, either from the environment or from lifestyle, too much acid is good. Oh, take that back. Rewind. Too much acid is not good. Acid bad, alkaline good. We are acid by function, but alkaline by design. Meaning the more alkaline the cell is, the healthier the cell is. The more acid the cell is, the more issues it has to deal with. Not that it's unhealthy, but it has more issues to deal with. I don't believe in the concept of sickness and disease, healthy or unhealthy. We're all as healthy as we can be. No one is sick. We're all surviving if you're breathing and alive and have a pulse. It's just at the level you're surviving. We're all absolutely well. We just work and endeavor to be more well. And so your survival system cannot determine the level of health that you're at right now. That's a judgment call on your part or the doctor's part or whoever says there's something wrong with you. That's something we've bought. That's something we believe. That's something that's not true. The body can't do anything wrong. It responds perfectly to every stimulus that we give it. It responds perfectly. You may not like the response, well then change the stimulus. Well, the only way we can change 30 degrees is go to Florida. Because I looked at it, it's 80 degrees already in Orlando. And so the other thing that we can do is make wise choices. Right about now, from all until the end of the year to next year, hydrating with water is more important or just as important as it was during the summer. But the difference is in the warmer months, you're up moving around, you were stimulating circulation. You won't be eating, you weren't eating as much food as you will between now and the end of the year. And so you still need as much or if not more water, because remember, water, 2/3 of your body is water. 2/3 of the earth at least is water. So it would make sense that if you have that much water in your body, you want to maintain that amount, because again, the design of the body is perfect. The design of the body is perfect. It's like the design of creation is perfect. The earth cannot, does not, and will not deviate 1 millimeter, not 1 millimeter off its orbital path in the eons that has been here and the eons that it will be here. The design is perfect. And so with that in mind, the body, which is part of creation, which is perfect, responds perfectly to the stimulus that we give it. Our organism, which includes the body, the conscious and the subconscious mind, and the energy field, that composite organism as a human being is a perfect stimulus response organism. Let me say it again. Perfect stimulus response organism. And so how many things does man design that's perfect? Oh, no. The latest commercial jet that Boeing produced had some things that be ironed out. They called it back, recalled, fixed it, and they'll be back in the air again in about a month or so. Well, never, ever did the Creator recall millions of human beings back to the human being manufacturing plant, like Ford and Toyota and the car manufacturers do with their cars. Sometimes they have recalls because there were defects. Our Creator never recalled human beings to fix a defect. And so it is my belief that we're still perfect. We inherited a perfect design. So if you believe that you have a condition, you will manifest that condition. You might have said a long time ago, you are what you eat. Well, you are what you believe, too. There's a manifestation of what you believe because your subconscious, the part of your organism, the part of you that controls your healing, that controls your adaptability, and I call it your general adaptive potential. Your general adaptive potential. Now, later on in the week, it may get close to 60 degrees. That's a 30-degree swing. Do you have the potential to handle those extreme temperatures? And so if your gap is not expanding to handle different stresses in your life, and it includes eating and thinking and all those things, if your general adaptive potential is not expanding, then it is decreasing. If it's not expanding, it's decreasing. There's no such thing as staying the same. We live in a universe that's in constant motion. There's no way you could be in the same position that you were 10 seconds ago. It's only a concept that you were in that same position. So, how you doing? Oh, about the same? No. If you think you're doing the same, I think to me, when you reevaluate, because you might be moving in the other direction as opposed to getting closer to being more well. The myth is, and it's, again, a myth, the more mature you get, the less cognitive efficiency you have. In other words, you can't think or remember or, it may be apparent. It may be apparent that happens, but that's not true. Every experience that your brain had, every experience that you had and your brain was there, is stored. It's stored in memory. Every last one of them. Now, whether or not you can recall that experience, it depends on your ability to recall, or where did you file it, which cabinet, which folder. But you don't forget anything. I call it selective memory. Sometimes we can remember the person's name, and next time we can't. Well, what's up with that? Well, we can walk into a room and look for something that we forgot we were looking for, and then we have to walk back out in order to remember what we went into the room the first time to get. Well, that's not dementia. That's just putting so much information in, and a lot of it is not that relevant, and we just don't have an accurate filing system. We don't work on our filing system. There's people that can remember every day of their life. There's people with outstanding memories. There's memory courses. And so you can train your brain to remember everything. I had a group of nuns. I had an office in North County, and they would refer nuns in, and they get transferred to another assignment, and more nuns would come in. And these, they of course needed physical help, but their minds were always sharp. And I looked into a little research, and they did some research with a group of nuns on the East Coast. They're all in their 80s and 90s, and of course their bodies are, you're in your 9th and 10th decade, you're going to have some physical challenges. But their brains were sharp. The brains, I don't know what test they did, but they evaluated the mental activity of these 80 and 90-year-olds compared to general society, and it was a big difference. And so they looked into their active daily lifestyle. They read books, socialized with individuals, read the Bible, played cards, worked puzzles, crossword puzzles, and the like, keep the synapses, those brain connections, keep the synapses firing and keep them firing at a rapid pace. See, that's the key to memory, is to use your brain, to work puzzles, to do something that requires your logical and your reasoning skills, or your language skills, or your math skills. When you engage that part of your brain, and that part of the brain actually is called the cerebellum. Spatial reasoning.
Hold that thought, Doctor. Hold that thought. We got a
Alrighty.
break. Call number is 800-313-9443. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the first day of October. We're going on a cruise. What a great time to be away from the ice and the snow. Go to the Caribbean on the Royal Caribbean Cruise Line, second week of February. It will be a lot of fun. I hope you can join us. Details at my website at thelibertyman.com. Or you can call my cruise director. This is what she does for a living, Betsy Murphy, the wife of my dear friend Ben. Betsy Murphy, our cruise director. Here's her telephone, 636-530-9502. We're visiting with Dr. Lynn Wilbert. This is what we do every Friday morning, second hour. We talk about health-related matters. If you don't want to talk about your health-related matters in front of 10,000 people, well, just give them a call and have a private consultation. Dr. Wilbert's telephone is 314-495-6480. Let's continue, Doctor.
All right, J.R. Moore. I don't know, excuse me. I don't know how we got into the brain discussion, but it's very appropriate because it has to do with movement. It has to do with movement and emotions. I was doing some research earlier this week, and it was evident that I had read it and studied it because it was all kinds of notes. During the wintertime, or the colder months, we move less. And so we tend to not be as happy. It's evident. What do they call it? They call it some kind of winter blues or something. But movement is tied directly into emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. Emotion is your body's feedback to the sensory mechanisms in the brain. That's emotion. Thoughts don't have emotions. Thoughts are things. Thoughts create feelings, and those feelings create energy, and the body feeds it back. That's energy in motion. Part of the brain that controls or was developed to control motion, movement, such as walking, is the cerebellum, which is at the base of the brain. The cerebellum also figures in spatial skills, mathematic reasoning, abstract things that require thought to learn, in addition to movement. See, as human beings, we didn't come here, we didn't separate from our mothers knowing how to walk. But we knew how to breathe, we knew how to cry, we knew how to eat, we knew how to excrete. So those normal body functions, we knew how to do. We came here with that ability, that innate ability to survive. We needed help at that early age, but we popped out surviving on our own, whereas before we were inside our mother, and we needed our mother for our survival. So now you're out, and you're laying on your back, and you're not moving until someone moves you. But you're looking around, and pretty soon you can tell everybody else is moving. Well, the cerebellum hasn't developed yet. It's there, but it hasn't developed. So now you flip over on your belly, you figure out how to do that in a few weeks or months. Hold your head up, you're looking around, you're going, whoa, there's people. What are they doing? They're not doing what I'm doing. They're walking. I want to do that too. And so what do? You start to figure out how to crawl. Knees, elbows, whatever it takes for you to move forward, sideways. I've seen all kinds of crawling patterns. But it's very important that you crawl. It's very important that parents with children that's learning to walk, they must crawl. If they skip over the crawling phase, they have difficulty with math, they have difficulty with reasoning, and sometimes you can pick them out in the crowd. It would be a little bit different in terms of the social interaction. So you say you crawl for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, and then pretty soon, about 8 or 9 months, you're what? You're wanting to stand up. Now, the first time you stand up is really very scary. I don't remember, but I've seen the expression on my children's face and many other children. The first time they stood up, it wasn't happy. It was, whoa, this is scary. Then you sit down. Everybody else that's observing you, they're clapping. They're going, yay, look at that, he just stood up. Oh, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it again. You stand up, and then pretty soon you take your first step. Oh, it's even scarier. It's even scarier. So you sit back down, but everybody else is applauding. You took your first step. And then you take your next step, and pretty soon your head is just leading you all over the place as a toddler. The smartest human being on the planet is a 2-year-old human. At that point, they've been walking. They've had wheels for about a year. The physical brain, the conscious part, the physical conscious part of the brain is fully mature. Now, they haven't learned everything, but they have learned to consciously control what it is they want to do. And it's obvious because most 2-year-olds will tell you no in a heartbeat.
That's right. Doctor, hold on. We got a break. Call number is 800-313-9443. We'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcast. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the first day of November. If you want to keep up with what's going on in the world, geopolitical matters, every day we have a new bunch of articles, usually 2 to 3 dozen or more from all over the planet. A friend of mine, former counterintelligence agent, he puts this together. We get it posted on my website under Daily Intelligence Briefing. A lot of great information there. You need to check that out. Also, my website, of course, we have energy cleaners. If you have arthritis pain, it's not going to fix itself. The energy cleaner will help the arthritis pain. Joint pain, back pain, same thing. You want to sleep as good as a small child every night like I do? You need an energy cleaner. Pure and simple. You can read up on the energy cleaner, the patent application information, the wonderful testimonials. We'll have Steve Whitman with us live in a week or so. His testimony is there at my website under with the energy cleaner. $285 shipping included for the energy cleaner. The mattress pads vary in price depending on what you need. We've got something to fit pretty much every bed, twin size, full, queen, king, California king. Everything's listed there for sale. Everything's in stock, ready for immediate shipment. You can use PayPal, MasterCard, Visa. You want to send a check? My address is at my website. Now I have a toll-free order line 24 hours a day. Here it is, 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. You want to visit with Dr. Wilbert, have a private consultation, just give him a call at 314-495-6480. And if you want to call in right now, we'd be glad to take your call here at Republic Broadcasting. The telephone is 800-313-9443. Let's continue, Doctor.
All right, where was I? It's been said that the mind is the final frontier, space is the final frontier, quantum physics the final frontier. I don't know. Once we get to one frontier, there's another one. However, we still don't quite understand how intricate and how complex the brain is. And so I've learned most what I know about the brain, if not all of it, after chiropractic college, post chiropractic education, and which is what I study. I consider myself a neuroscientist, and as a result of that, I observe what affects the brain and the nerve system, and then figure out what I can do to enhance that perfect function. Remember, it's a perfect function. I think it was a Kodak commercial. I don't remember the tagline or anything, but it started off with a toddler that just learned to walk. And you know what they look like. They're flat-footed, hands sprawled, head moving forward. And then he was going toward the front door with the sun shining through. And then they panned back, and then behind him was Papa, walking the same way, the same posture, but only slower, much slower. And I went, oh, my goodness, that's what happens. As we mature, we forget how to walk. And movement is tied directly into emotion. There's a book, and I just found it, and not just found it, I just pulled it off out of my bag here. A User's Guide to the Brain. It's written by John J. Ratey, R-A-T-E-Y, M.D. It's a rather old book. I tend to like older books. A User's Guide to the Brain, Perception, Attention, and the Four Theaters of the Brain. Now, we don't have time to get into that today, but the page that I'm looking at is called The Crucial Role of Movement. The crucial role of movement. Movement affects the part of the brain that's called the limbic system. The limbic system, not limbo, limbic, L-I-M-B-I-C, limbic system. That's where all your thoughts and your feelings and emotions and beliefs about anything, that's where it's stored. It's the emotional feeling center in the brain. And so the cerebellum feeds directly into that center. So, moral of the story, the more you move, the better you feel. The more you move, the better you feel. Just ask a runner. I have a good buddy who's a chiropractor in St. Croix, and he's a marathon runner. And his wife, Cindy, goes, oh, no, Marlon is horrible if he doesn't run. I tell him, go run. Go run.
Really?
He's not the same person if he doesn't run. But you don't have to be a marathon runner to be in a good mood. You can move, and walking is the perfect exercise to restore that feeling of, I feel good about myself. Well, if you don't, change it. Change it while you're moving. But if you're not moving, it's hard to generate that signal. And so back to the 2-year-old who has had wheels for maybe a year or so, and they've observed, they've learned some more things. They've observed and the difference between humans and children up until a certain point. I don't know when that is, but we develop filters in life. Children do not have the filters that adults have. Filters meaning you screen the event, you screen the situation, you screen the person. Children do that to a much less degree. You can tell what they're feeling, you can tell what they're expressing, because they don't have that filter that we've developed as adult human beings. And so a 2-year-old doesn't have a problem diving on the floor, telling you what he doesn't want to do. Well, that's, of course, intolerable in my world, but I see it more and more because parents don't know what to do. I was talking to my oldest daughter. She lives in Atlanta. She's 39. She has an 18-year-old girl, Cameron, and a 13-year-old boy, Khalil. And I told her, I said, Lisa, if I were to raise children again, I would never tell you guys no. And she says, that's not how you raise us, Dad. I said, well, yeah, that's true. I've learned as children come through my office. You guys are mature adults now. But what I've learned about the brain is that the brain cannot act on the reverse of what it has learned. We've talked about this before. That's why I'm repeating it. If you that typewriter you got, John, if you hit an S, it's going to be an S on the paper. It's not going to be a T. And so the brain is very much like that. The brain is exactly like that, as a matter of fact. You can't act on the reverse of what you've learned. Things like, stop running through here. Don't treat me this way. Quit doing this. Those statements do not penetrate the understanding of the brain. And the simple example, again, is don't think of a pink elephant. It's too late. You didn't hear the word don't. You went straight to a pink elephant. And I had one of my clients say, well, I didn't think of a pink elephant. Well, how did you know what to say back to me? If you heard it, you thought about it. And not only did you thought about it, you remembered it enough to repeat it back to me. You thought of a pink elephant. And so I told her, I said, what I would do instead is to share with you guys what we would love to have happen. We get an agreement. We both agree on it, and then we can both hold each other accountable. That's how you raise children. You raise children, getting them to agree to what you, not what they want you to do, because they don't know. And so as you grow and develop beyond 2 years old, 3 years old, up to 8 years old, you're processing all kinds of information. I wouldn't want to grow up again, and I just wouldn't, now that I know what's entailed. However, I can help parents with their children and help them develop into productive citizens, contributing citizens, as opposed to, this emotional instability that you see in so many of the young people today. And it's because they're, number one, they're media driven, and number two, their parents they could have done a better job at rearing their children. Because if you care about yourself and care about humankind, there's just some things that wouldn't happen. There's who was that? Wayne Dyer. He's not here anymore. He transitioned maybe a few years ago, 4 or 5. Wayne Dyer. He's a motivation speaker. Has written tons of books on everything. He says, if at that time, or even now, if we took every 5-year-old on the planet right now, 5 years old, and that's a great time to learn. I would love to talk to every kindergarten, first grade teacher, in this country and then spread it across the world, because that's when you can effectively change a person's life. You said a 5-year-old, we teach a 5-year-old, every 5-year-old on the planet, to meditate for 20 minutes every day. By the time that 5-year-old is 20 years old, there will be no war on the planet. And I just thought about it for a minute, because when you take time to calm your mind, and meditation is not a bad thing. If you never calmed your mind, it might be a good idea to do so. You don't have to do all the types of meditation that's out there. Meditation is really to look inside yourself, to calm your mind, and to think about happy potentials. Period. They may not be true, but your subconscious cannot tell the difference between real or not real. Let me say that again. Your subconscious can't tell the difference between anything that you visualize, anything that you imagine, or anything that you pretend. It cannot determine if it's real or not. And again, I encourage the listeners to go on YouTube and look at Ella Fitzgerald. They have, I looked the other day, they have several versions of that Ella Fitzgerald commercial with Memorex, and she broke the goblet with her human voice. And they took another goblet and replaced it with took the broken one away, replaced it with a goblet, and then hit rewind play. And this goblet did the same thing, but only it was a recording. And the tagline was, you can't tell the difference between a live voice and a recorded voice if you record on Memorex. And it was a cassette tape. And I'm going, whoa, that's interesting. And so that's how your subconscious is. It cannot tell the difference between what you vividly imagine and what is real. I had a client one time say, you know, Dr. Wilbur, I'm an adult. I don't pretend anything. And I said, Mr. Client, that's why you're inflexible. That's why your movement can be improved. Now, my children used to have tea parties. I have 2 girls and a boy. My boy is the youngest. My girls used to have tea parties. Dad, come join me at the tea party. Oh, tea party? I don't see a tea party. Got to go. Did not attend one tea party. My grandchildren, I attend every tea party. I want to know who's there, and I want to know when you're going to have the next one. That's the difference. I told Lisa, I said, I've learned how the brain works. I've learned how the brain works. If you can't get an agreement, then you go to sleep deprivation and food deprivation. I mean, who buys the food and cooks the food in your house? You do. If you can't get an agreement, they don't eat. If you can't get an agreement, you wake them up right when they fall asleep. Children will fall asleep in their spaghetti plate when they're tired and sleepy. I mean, adults do it too, but wake them up and talk. Oh, I'm so sleepy. Yeah, I am too, but we got to get this understanding. So it's not difficult to rear children. You just have to not threaten them. You know, I'm going to take you home, and you never do it. No, and then they call you bluff. But the brain is really, really, really very simple. And children, even adults, children, even from infancy to now, we came here happy. We came here happy as an infant. We're not fussy. We're just hungry, or we got a wet diaper, or we want to be held, or you know, we learn to get upset from our environment, from our mothers, our fathers, our teachers, our preachers, our authority figures. We learn those things, and then those things are reinforced by our experiences, and then our experiences form our beliefs. Well, what happens if what you learned wasn't true? Oh, well, then you may attract experiences to you. In fact, you will attract experiences to verify what your true belief is, even though what you learned may not have been true. In the world of quantum physics, like energies attract. Newtonian physics, opposites attract. Quantum physics, like energy. So if you're happy most of the time, you're going to attract happy experiences to you. If you're sad and unhappy most of the time, well, there's another one. It's not even on your radar yet, but it's coming because of the energy that you are in most of the time. I'm not saying that we don't ever get upset. Do I ever get upset? I don't think so. Do I sometimes not feel as happy as I would love to? Yes. And as soon as that happens, I have a switch to get me back on the road. Because I just ran off road. If I'm not feeling happy about the moment that I'm alive, I have a switch that kicks me back on the road, and now I'm happy again. And the youth, I'm starting to focus on even more because they're the future of who's going to run this world. And right now they have a different opinion of the world. When we grew up, John, it's just different the way it is today. And a lot of it, again, has to do with social media. But back to the brain. See, when you process information, and again, the information may not be correct, but if you process it after you've perceived whatever the information is, then you process it, then you've just processed incorrect information. There's a saying, practice makes perfect. Well, I don't agree with that. That's never been true. Perfect practice makes perfect.
Absolutely. Practice makes permanent. Practice makes permanent.
Practice
it
makes
does.
permanent.
Here's our last break. We'll be right back. All right, we are back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back. J.R. Moore here on Friday, the first day of November. If you need a private consultation with Dr. Wilbert, just give him a call, and he'll be glad to talk to you and get you going in the right direction. His telephone number is 314-495-6480. Doctor, we've got about 3 minutes here, sir.
All righty. Let's just tie it all together with the concept of, number one, there's no such thing as sickness and disease. When I lecture to my seniors, I share with them, you're not sick. I mean, just say it. I am sick, and see how that makes you feel. And again, your subconscious doesn't know the difference between any condition you have and the condition that you have. It cannot differentiate because it cannot think, judge, or reason. It can't put a name on the condition that you have because its only mission in life is survival. And so I say to my seniors, I am not sick. I am surviving. I am a survivor. I am sick. I'm a survivor. And then pretty soon you don't say I'm sick anymore. You recognize and appreciate the fact that your subconscious is doing everything it can for survival. Now, the byproduct of survival is what you've done in your life up to this point. The perfect stimulus response organism has responded perfectly to everything you've done up to this point, and it's called accumulative. It's not linear, it's vertical accumulation. And just think about that. Every moment, how many days have you been alive? How many moments have you been alive? Well, every moment that you're alive affects every cell, every time, either toward more health and healing or away. So there's no discussion. If there's a discussion, it's because you've been branded. It's because you've been told to believe that there's such a thing as disease, and I happen to believe that creation is perfect, and since mankind is part of creation, there's a part of us that's perfect, and that's design. It's taken me over 30 years, John, to come up with this expression. We are perfect manifestations of our learned imperfect thinking. We are perfect manifestations of our learned imperfect thinking, whether we think about less than positive thoughts about the economy, the world, those two things we can't even do about, and you're going to have less than positive thoughts about it. But what do you have control over? You have control over your thoughts. Every thought affects every cell, every time, either toward healing or away. Whose choice is it? Who tells you what you think? You do. Who influences what you think? Oh, be careful what you read and hear and all of that stuff, because if you process it with your five senses, then you process it in your brain forever.
That's
I love
right.
that statement. Practice makes permanent, but perfect practice makes permanent as well.
Absolutely.
At
I
the
could
same
not agree
time,
more,
John.
Doctor. I could not agree more. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for being with us, sir. It was a great show, as always. Look forward to having you back next Friday, sir.